What is the meaning of the American dream? Webster Dictionary defines it as a life categorized by material wealth and success. Now, in current time, ChatGPT says, a life marked by hard work, anyone could achieve the American dream through prosperity and success. Now, I want to share my own personal story with you of the American dream. Standing here, as I'm looking at my parents, I could vividly remember 1989, before my dad immigrated to this distant country. We were in the sleeping area of his grocery store, a store he opened a week before I was born. So when he told me he was leaving to this distant place, I had just turned 5 years old. He was laying on his back, and I was facing him. And I'm going to speak in our dialect. Me I go a far country, and I can't take you with me. Now, as a child, saying that he's leaving, he can't take me with him. I was devastated, crying. I said, no, please don't leave me. I remember our moments used to be fun father-daughter moments. And after that, my elementary years were blurred. I turned to running and track. Those were my outlets in education. Now, fast forward, October 19, 1997, I decided to join my father in this distant country. Before I boarded the airport, the plane, I turned to my mother and I said, I won't let you down. I'm going to make you proud. When I arrived this distant country, my new homeland looks beautiful. And now I had the opportunity to continue with my mother and my parents' dream. I had the chance to pursue my own dream. I remember when I was applying to my undergrad study. I remember as a first-generation student, I wrote in my personal statement that this opportunity would expand my horizon. It did. I went on to be a decorated NCAA Division I track and field athlete. 2 decades after, I got my doctorate in public health. I became an associate tenure professor, a researcher where I focus on my culture. And so I ask you, I have 2 questions for you. One, what is the cause of the American dream? Well, as a researcher, when I looked at what the fact says, I will backtrack. Let's pause before we get to the second point. Is the American dream attainable? Well, my example would say it is. However, a recent study of American adults says that the American adult population is split. 53% said it was one possible. 41% said it's not possible. And another 6% said, don't even think about it because it was never something to consider. Now, the most important question that I want you to think about tonight is what is the cost of attaining the American dream? When I did my own research, much of the literature and the finding had to deal with economic. Stagnant wages, debt, not a lot of opportunity for mobility, and the last one is political instability and social erosion of trust. And so what's not on the list, and what I'm going to talk with you today about, is the health consequences, the physical and mental health that we often don't see that gets under our skin. Have you asked yourself, what is the cost? What is the sacrifice that someone have done for you? Well, what if I told you that the American dream isn't just delayed, but it's deferred? You probably want to know why I even say that, because we're still chasing the American dream. Well, first, one is what I call the hidden health paradox. Now, imagine you had the opportunity and you just passed the toughest physical exam ever. That is the reality for most legal immigrants coming to the United States. They had to go through multiple physical tests because we know when they get here, statistically, they're healthy. Some of the healthiest, which is what we call the healthy immigrant effect. Now, something starts to happen the longer they live here. Their health starts deteriorating. A recent report in New York City noted that the prevalence of high blood pressure is higher for Afro Caribbean immigrants compared to those who were born here in the United States. They often have untreated mental health, particularly depression, and are less likely to receive the service that they need. Now, what is the contributing factor? If we think about this hidden health paradox that gets under her skin, it's like a rock being worn out to its element. And so we call this the weathering effect. They're experiencing adverse health outcome because of they have to adapt to the new culture. They're facing constant depression. And there's a responsibility here in the States and to their home country. Now, when we think about the hidden health paradox, which is the wear and tear that gets under our skin, the next topic that I want to point to you is what I call the burden ladder illusion. Now, we know the American dream. The first thing that you want to do is first, you buy a house. Second, you become an entrepreneur, or you work towards a fancy title that I noted earlier, or you get your promotion. And third, you want to ensure that your children get a better education than you did, because that's what my parents provided for me. And so, as a result of this constant climb, there's a burning ladder, there's an illusion. We're not seeing it. But because they're so weathered, this toxicity, this chronic stressor, wear and tears on the body. And so they're climbing, but they're not enjoying the view from the top. They can't enjoy the view from the top because it gets under their skin. And so this reminds me of the folk hero John Henry. We call it John Henryism. He beat the steam drill, but he ended up dying. That was the cost. So he did pursue beating the steam drill, but he didn't make it to enjoy his success. And it's the same thing that I'm seeing with my people, and perhaps for every other immigrant group here in the United States. And so the success of or climbing the American dream shouldn't come at these costs. It shouldn't come at the cost where success and detrimental to your health is on the same coin. Now I ask you, as I share with you, is the American dream attainable? Well, my example will tell you that it is. But we're seeing in the data that it's not. Yes, Afro-Caribbean are buying homes at an alarming rate. Yes, they are entrepreneurs. Yes, their children are getting the education and accumulating a lot of degrees. But where are their safety nets? What happens when the climb is too hard? What happens when they miss the wrong step? What happens when the steps crumbles? And so I ask of you to think about what is the cost and the consequences of this American dream or pursuing the American dream. I'm not telling you not to pursue it, but I want you to consider the cost. How does that get under our skin? How do we protect the ones that we love? Why should the sacrifices of our parents or immigrants who come here become a consequence of their health where we don't get to enjoy it together? We're all the problem solvers in the room. We're immigrants, we're native born. But if one person is unhealthy in the community, regardless of their status, everyone is unhealthy. And so I call on you today to think about what role would you play? Now, I have 3 steps that I want you to consider, but before I get to those 3 steps, I want to let you know my parents' dream got me here. My running propelled me. My education and my mentor gave me a voice, but my research revealed this hidden burden that's impacting our community. And so I want you to take or consider the personal audit. And the first one is to kind of see, look around where you live, learn, play, and eventually will age and die. To look to see the parents, that immigrant parent, sometime he or she's parenting their children in another country, how exhausted they are. I want you to think about the entrepreneur parents who often missed his or her parents, students, or children, games or activity. I want you to check on the student, the second generation student, and not just ask them about their grades, but ask them about the stress. The second part is where I want you to name it. Are you too weathered? Ask your colleague. You're in a meeting. You're at lunch. Are you too weathered? What is under your skin? Don't only focus on building or packing the resume. The last one is to take action. We should advocate for Mental Health Day. We should collaborate with community-based and faith-based organizations to host a screening, but not only host a screening, because then you're doing your community a disservice. I want you to provide that continuous of care. If that person needs a connection with a community member or a health setting, be that person to do so. I want you to think about this. Don't be the person that pour on the ladder. Be the person who pour water on the ladder. As a public health practitioner, we should not be working in silo. As I noted, when one person is unhealthy, everyone is unhealthy. And so we should be moving forward for intervention that is sustainable, regardless of whether you were born here or outside of the country. Thank you.